Hello and welcome everyone tuning in from all over the world for the European Trophy 2021. Today we are live on site at the Kessel House in Munich. And in case you were watching the overwhelming Rookie European Championship this afternoon, I hope you got some rest to now share the athletes' anticipation even more. But of course, I not only want to welcome you back, but also my colleague Troy Mannering. Hi!
Thank you very much, Pia. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, North America. Good evening, Europe. If you're just joining us for this European Trophy, a really, really fun format, and it's going to be a crazy night of action.
It definitely is, and directly on site, we of course have a field reporter for you, getting all the information firsthand. I'll say hello, Lisa. How are you doing?
Hello and welcome to the STIHL TIMBERSPORTS European Trophy 2021. We are here in Germany, Munich, at the Motor World Kessel House. This building was designed by Theodor Fischer and Otto Ernst Schweitzer. Formerly, turbines, tractors, and train engines were produced here. Afterwards, it was used to maintain the trains for about 70 years. And nowadays, it's for an event venue. It's for artists, or for today's location, for the STIHL TIMBERSPORTS European Trophy. This is going to be such an amazing event. It's going to be challenging and exciting. And I just can't wait to start. But before we start, we're going to go back to Pia and Troy.
Well, 2020, this kind of competition format couldn't take place. That's why the qualifiers are still valid from that year, and they're competing today. Nevertheless, not 18 as usually, but 14 because 2 couldn't get on site because of COVID, travel restrictions, and 2 other ones are sadly injured. Anyway, we'll get right into it because the athletes, that's what it's all about. And well, I'll hand it over to you, Troy.
All right, let's meet our guys right now. I mean, we've got some of the best in Europe here. Starting off with Martin Kalina. He was 9th place at the Champions Trophy 2019. He's had 2 international trophy appearances, and yeah, I mean, he's got a little bit of international background there, so we'll see how he does today. Coming up next, we've got Kalle Swadling from Sweden. 4 Nations Cup in 2020, he got 4th place. The World Champs in 2017, he was 7th. Those are some of his better international results so far. He's a big, strong boy, and look for him to do well in the chopping disciplines. And of course, Pierre Puy-Barret from France, one of those guys who's always been around. He was 6th at the Virtual European Championships in 2020, 3rd at the 4 Nations Cup in 2020, 10th at the World Championships of Individual in 2019, and 7th at the Champions Trophy in 2018. So this format is something that he is familiar with. Gunther Dahlinger from Austria, 33 years old. This is his first international championship appearance, so we'll be looking for him to try and get in the mix as quickly as possible. He was 4th at the Austrian Championships in 2019 before everything kind of got shut down on us, and we'll continue with these guys here shortly. All right, Redmer Nol from the Netherlands. I mean, another guy who has a little bit of international time under his tongue there, but not very much. So you can see that's his first appearance in an international trophy event. And we'll be looking for him to really, try and cut his teeth on the event today. Michael Delpine from Italy, 23 years old, one of the youngest guys out there. He was 2nd at the Rookie World Championship in 2018, the Austrian Rookie Cup, and the Italian Rookie Cup. He was 1st in 2017-18 and 1st in 2016 at the Italian Rookie Cup. Armin Kugler, wow, I mean, this guy's been around the block. Austrian champion, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18. I mean, that's a lot of championships under his belt there. 4 Nations Cup 2020, he got 2nd. Champions Trophy 2018, he was 9th in 2019. he was 8th, and there's a lot of inth in there. And the World Championships 2017, he was 10th. So he was always kind of on the up and up. And here we have Guillaume Moore, 34 years old, coming out of France. Four Nations Cup 2020, he was 8th. The French Pro Champs 21, he got 2nd. The French Trophy 21, he got 2nd. The French Pro Champs 20, he got 2nd. And the French Trophy 20, he got 2nd. So he's consistent, this performer, absolutely. Emil Hansen, 20 years old, the youngest competitor in our pro class today from Sweden. He got 2nd at the Six Nations Rookie Cup last year. The Rookie Worlds 2019, he was 3rd. 2018, he was 4th. The Czech Rookie Cup 2019, he won. So he's got a bunch of podium finishes under his belt. And then the legend, Martin Kormarek. What can you say about this guy? He is the winningest athlete in Czech timber sports. He's got so many wins under his belt for the Czech Republic. It's nuts. He also holds national records in hot saw, standing, single buck, underhand, stock saw, you name it. Then we have Koen Martens. He's 37 years old, coming out of Belgium. At the Worlds, he got 12th in 2016, 12th in 2018, and 12th in 2019, and 2nd at the Virtual European Championships in 2020. So he's a pretty consistent performer as well. Then we have Danny Martin from Germany, and we'll be looking for him to really have a good time today. It's his 2nd appearance in a trophy contest, and you could see his international merits are right there and solid as well. So we're going to have some fun today with these guys on stage.
And there's one athlete missing yet. He's known as the X Machine. He's known as the Virtual European Champion of 2020. And you're going to know a lot more after the next seconds.
So Michał Dubicki, 40 years old, coming from Poland. He's the Polish champion in 20 and 21. He was 1st at the EU Trophy 2019. 19 Trophy 18, he got 5th. Trophy 19, he got 4th. Virtual European Champion 20. At 6th place at the Worlds. I mean, he's got plenty of international exposure, and he is a big, strong guy. And we see that, you know, he is definitely one guy we're going to keep a close eye on today. He would probably be the guy that we would call our favorite for a win today. But with the trophy format, anything can happen. So we are about to get started, but there's a little bit of important news, I guess we could say. It's a bit of sad news, actually. The world of timber sports and the timber sports family lost a very important member recently in Dirk Brown. He passed away due to an unfortunate accident near his home. And, of course, there's a lot of sadness in the world of timber sports, as he was one of the gentleman athletes of this sport, and we will all miss him terribly. And here we go, world record holder Dirk Brown, 5.20 seconds to cut 3 cookies.
Weltrekord wollte ich schneiden, das war immer mein Ziel schon seit Jahren. Und das jetzt hier bei der DM zu machen, natürlich so grandios, kann man eigentlich gar nicht besser schreiben, das Buch. Und bin natürlich super glücklich.
Kommt aus Deutschland und hier ist der
Da ist er, der 8-fache deutsche Meister der STIHL Timbersport Series, Dirk Braun.
You can see the concentration and focus from Dirk.
Und ich sage immer so, Zweifler gewinnen nie und Gewinner zweifeln nie.
So really tough loss for Timbersports with the passing of Dirk Braun, one of the first guys who actually sat down with me and had a long talk about everything Timbersports, and it was a really, it was a great way for me to get my feet wet sitting down with him as one of the very first athletes. He was open, he was inviting, he was intelligent, and we'll all miss him a lot.
And he was a legend at the European Trophy format as well. As we know, depending on the competition format, the completed disciplines, the points, and the elimination system is different. Well, the European Trophy, it works in a knockout system, and you will know more in just a few seconds.
The STIHL Timbersports European Trophy. At the European Trophy, athletes have to complete 4 disciplines back-to-back. After the start, they need to cut a whole disc with the stock saw within a marked 10-centimeter area. After that, they have to complete the underhand chop as fast as possible. Only after they split the block can they return to the starting point, where this time the single buck is waiting for them to cut 1 complete cookie. As the last discipline, the athletes have to complete the standing block chop in order to achieve the best possible overall time. Any rule infraction will result in a disqualification, and they will be eliminated. This competition format demands to plan their efforts strategically over the course of the rounds, as all participants must first demonstrate their skills in a time trial. Only the fastest from the time trial advance to the round of 16 and are seeded against each other based on their qualifying time. They now continue to compete in the knockout system through the round of 16, the quarterfinals, and semifinals. The losers of the semifinals will battle for the last podium place in the so-called small final. After that, the 2 winners of the semifinals will compete one more time to see who will take the title.
So we'll start right with the round of 16. Who will take time whom? We'll see in just a second. In the first heat, with Michał Dubicki against Andrea Rossi, Guillaume Moore against Martin Kalina in the second heat, Red McNoll competing against Günther Dallinger, Danny Martin in the fourth heat against Pierre Puberé, in the fifth heat Emil Hansen against Cohen Martins, and in the sixth heat Armin Kugler against Martin Komarec.
All right, there's our stage set up, Ian. You might be wondering why you read the list out, but there are 2 guys missing from that list, and that is because the 2 top times from the time trial jumped over the round of 16 and went directly to the quarterfinal. That's Michał Dubicki and Kalle Svadling. But first, we're going to get through this round of 16 here in our first heat. A couple of Italians going up against each other, Michał Dubicki and Andrea Rossi. Now, Andrea Rossi, one of the oldest guys out there, has a pedigree in this discipline as well. Michał Dubicki, one of the youngest guys out there, going up against some experience. There we see Andrea Rossi, 46 years old. In fact, I do believe he's the oldest competitor in the trophy format here today, besides Martin Komarec, who I believe is 44. So setting up the single buck. All of the preparation on stage right now goes into making sure that each of these positions is complete. Now, if you watched our rookie European Championship earlier on, you would have noticed that each of the guys competed in individual disciplines prior and then went on to the next disciplines. Here, you get to see all of these 4 disciplines at the same time. So they'll start with the stock saw, as you saw in the description earlier. Then they'll run over to the underhand chop, cut through the block from both sides. Then it's back to the misery whip, the single buck. And then finally, the standing block. And here we go. Heat number 1.
1, go!
Let's see how Andrea Rossi manages here today at 47 years of age, or 46, excuse me, on the right-hand side of your screen, going up against Michael Delpine, and they both drop those cookies pretty evenly. Andrea Rossi just a step ahead of Delpine as he gets over to the underhand chop, and now Delpine gets into slabbing that block away as well. Andrea Rossi looking very good as he is deep into the first side of his block and switches over to the other side, a swing or two ahead of Michael Delpine. And there's Delpine switching over to the other side. This is all about experience and your commitment to really going for it. And by the time these guys reach the end of this heat, they are going to be winded, which is one of the reasons why this is tough. This is a really tough format because they're going from event to event to event on the same stage at the same time. All right, now over to the misery whip. Andrea Rossi gets that thing started. He's very strong in this discipline, and if he can keep it going and get good flow, then he should be well ahead of Michael Delpine as they get to the standing block chop, and he has got a solid lead. Get a little bit of a stop there, but he drops the cookie. Everything looks okay so far as Delpine moves over to the standing block chop. And here, he's got a massive lead over Michael Delpine, but can Delpine catch up on the standing block chop? It's a strong discipline for him, but Andrea Rossi is also really solid with the axe in his hand, and his experience is going to play a huge role. Delpine breathing hard already. Andrea Rossi looks like he has been staying fit in the off-season, and they both move over to the other side at the same time. It could be a game of catch-up for Delpine. Let's see what happens. Andrea Rossi's getting close there. Can he do it? Is he going to hold off Delpine, or is Delpine going to catch up and take this win? It's going to be Andrea Rossi. He drops it in 1:43.02. Delpine keeps going. I thought he was farther through than he was, and he probably didn't go deep enough on the first side. Should be 2 more hits to get it done. And, oh no, excuse me, let's call it 3. And it's 1:54.44 for Michael Delpine. Wow. That was a crazy last little bit there. I thought Delpine was going to catch up to Rossi because they both move over to the other side of the block more or less at the same time, but Andrea Rossi held him off for a time of 1:43.02. Whew. First one's done and dusted.
Okay, and the winner is Andrea Rossi.
So Andrea Rossi will move on to the quarterfinal. So taking a look here, there's Delpine's stock saw. Andrea Rossi was just a hair ahead of Delpine onto the underhand chop, and here is where Andrea Rossi pulled ahead. You could see he's moving the axe a little bit quicker than Delpine and managed to get over to the single buck ahead of Delpine. And that's where it really went well for Andrea Rossi. He's very solid on that single buck, as we will see shortly. He got it going, and he used the entire length of that saw to really cut clean. And just a little stick right there, but then it finally dropped, and Rossi moved to the standing block chop about a good 4 or 5 strokes ahead of Delpine. Now here's where it got really interesting. Delpine started cutting on the other side more or less at the same time that Rossi did, but he didn't really go deep on the first side, so he probably saw out of the corner of his eye Rossi go over to the other side and thought, okay, I'm going to try and keep with him. Maybe it was a little bit of mind gaming, but Andrea Rossi was faster in the end, so we will see him in the quarterfinals.
And, well, today in the morning, there have been the time trials where just 2 athletes got qualified to just start right into the quarterfinals, get a kickoff, and these guys are Dubicki and Swadling. What's also good to know about the time trials this morning is that there have been 3 DQs, Cohen Martins, Günther Dallinger, and Martin Kalina. And for the ranking, we'll take the stock saw timing, but now you'll get a little impression of the time trials. Well, this was quite a nice time travel. And, well, I'm excited for this competition now. I've never seen on like a real European trophy, and I'm very excited now.
Yeah, it's a great format, and as we saw in that time trial, that was the one with Kalle Svadling. It was a highlight from his heat, second fastest in the time trial, so he jumps over the round of 16 and goes automatically to the quarterfinals with the other guy who was fast there, Michał Dubicki. And now we've got our next heat on the blocks is Guillaume and Martin Kalina. And it was actually Martin Kalina you saw in that heat against Kalle Svadling. So now Martin Kalina has got to battle through here with Guillaume and see if he can make it into the quarterfinal. This is, again, it's not about necessarily your time. Your time will play a role if there's a tie down the road, but it's all about the elimination heats now. You've got to be quick, and you've got to really bide your energy and be fast and get into it, but save some energy for later on if you do get through here.
Athletes ready?
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, there's Martin Kalina on the right-hand side of your screen, Guillaume on the left, and both of them simultaneously dropping their cookies and straight over to the underhand chop. Moore was a little bit faster on the block, but Kalina is right there with them, and geez Louise, is Moore slabbing out some mega chunks of wood there. It's unbelievable how many big slabs came off in those first few hits from Guillaume Moore, and Kalina also now really hammering away at that block to try and catch up with Moore, but Moore is the first one to move over to the misery whip. Not far behind is Kalina, and now this is where Kalina has to be strong, and Guillaume Moore is already about halfway through that block. Great overhead. Oh, a huge stick for Kalina. That's going to cause him major problems. He's going to have to play a heavy-duty game of catch-up. Oh, but no, look at that. Guillaume Moore also had problems sticking, and so now the two of them are more or less even-steven on the standing block chop. So it's really going to come down to a mouse race here as they hit on the standing block. Who's going to move over to the other side first? Who will win this one? It's so close, it's hard to tell between these two guys. Kalina moves over to the other side first. Moore looks winded already. Both of these guys super tired, and now it's Moore taking his time getting over to the other side. Kalina with the advantage, getting over there early. Let's see if Moore can catch up and really hammer through, but it's going to be Kalina in 1:27.16 with a relieving breath of fresh air, and Guillaume Moore was so good in that underhand and then had trouble leading, actually led in the single buck and then got that saw caught right at the bottom of his strokes. Oh my goodness. What an unfortunate situation for the Frenchman, but Martin Kalina moves on to the quarterfinals with a come from behind, even though he did get stuck as well at the start of his single buck. What a crazy heat that was.
All right, and the winner is Martin Kalina.
So there you have it. Martin Kalina moves on to the quarterfinals through what is only describable as a man-made craziness of a heat. Let's look at this again. Slow-mo of the stock saw, and both of these guys dropped their cookies almost simultaneously. And look at this. Guillaume Moore was just a step ahead at the underhand chop, and you could see, look at these huge slabs coming off there. And then switching to the other side of the block for Martin Kalina, it was actually, he was a stroke behind Guillaume Moore. As we open up the camera picture here, you see Guillaume Moore was already all the way over to the single buck, and he was flowing nicely. And, I mean, he was looking like it was going to be no problem. And then right here at the bottom of the stroke, as he got close to the bottom, you could see that Kalina actually stuck up top, and then there was a massive set of sticks. And it's all about that flow and that angle. Boy, and he got lucky cutting that last little bit off, but that's where Kalina managed to catch up. And Kalina just had a little bit more breath at the end of this one. You could see here, Moore was just spent as he barely had any energy to pull that axe out after a stick. And it was Martin Kalina with a couple of final blows here and the relief breath. There it is. Thanks God for that one. Unbelievable heat. That was a fun one to watch. it almost looks like there's a layer of fog on the stage, the way they've set it up with the blue light and the backlighting and everything. It's kind of fun.
I think the stage setting is really amazing. And about the last heat, I think we saw Guy. We saw him last week at the French Championship, and he got second place, and he was like really getting all his energy into it. And now you could see him losing his breath.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different animal. The trophy format is really a different animal because you don't have a chance to rest between the underhand chop and the single buck, you know? Here, it's you go from the underhand chop right back to the single buck, and like I said, the misery whip, you know, you get on that thing and you saw how he got it stuck at the bottom, and restarting that 2-meter-long saw, that
takes
is
time.
taxing. It is tiring. Yep, absolutely. All right, the guys were really quick with the stage this time, and now we go to heat number 3 with Redmer Knoll and Günther Dahlinger. So a couple of guys that are, I would say, evenly matched up in the sense that they have very little international experience, if any at all. It'll be fun to see how these two guys handle the battle against each other, especially with the headspace that they know that if when one of them makes it through to the quarterfinal, there's going to be some serious competition waiting for them.
But I guess Dahlinger is going to have it a bit more easy with the underhand chop because he's the heaviest or the biggest guy at this competition. So that's my guess. I think he'll be a bit faster. What do you think?
Yeah, there's definitely a possibility there. This is, like I said, it's his first international championship, but he was 4th at the Austrian championship. When we're talking about a guy like Redmer Knoll or Knoll, you know, this is also, wow, no, I'm looking at it, it's definitely his first international event.
Warm up.
He was second at the Benelux Pro in 21, 6th in 20, and 9th in 19. So there's been steady improvement for Redmer Knoll. So it's, I think, an evenly matched up. Yeah, the bigger guy might have a better time with the standing block chop and the axe disciplines, but yeah,
ready.
Let's see.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So nice even start by both of these guys. I think maybe Knoll was a hair faster on the lineup, but it looks like Dahlinger is just a bit quicker over to the underhand chop, gets the first strike in. Redmer Knoll right in behind him, 1 stroke behind here. He gets that axe caught a couple of times, but you can see how precise he is with his hits. He's almost on line with that wedge every single time. But Dahlinger, wow, over to the other side already. He is really making short work of that block. Now, it could be that his markings were set up on purpose to be a little bit short on the front side so that he could step off and aim straight for the single buck, but it is Knoll who is over there at the single buck first. So here is going to be the telltale if Knoll can keep that saw moving, and if Dahlinger, using his size and his height, will be able to catch up and maybe really even things out as they go to the standing block chop. Oh, and Knoll gets caught. He stopped that saw, and Dahlinger also gets caught here, so Knoll moves over to the standing block chop ahead, and wow, Dahlinger is really struggling to get that single buck through that cookie, and Knoll definitely has the advantage now as he is working on the front side of his standing block chop, and finally Dahlinger gets that cookie dropped and moves over to the standing block, but Knoll is already on the other side of his standing block, so I'm pretty sure that Knoll is going to get through this one unless there is some sort of Herculean performance from Dahlinger, which is not going to happen. And a nice time of 1:32.21 for Knoll, and that puts him at the moment in the next round, definitely moving on, and Dahlinger really struggling. And here, it's where I talk about this often with this particular discipline. It's all about the fitness. You can have all the power in the world. You could be one of the biggest, strongest guys out there, but the more muscle mass you have, the more your body needs oxygen and the more you'll be breathing. And we do have a DQ for an exceeded time limit here, which is a heartbreaker for the Austrian Günther Dahlinger. But he wasn't going to be moving on to the quarterfinals anyway.
All right, and the winner is Redmer Knoll.
All right, so there we have it. Redmer Knoll. Managed to say his name probably consistently one time today. I'll stick with the Knoll. As we heard our judge on stage say Knoll, so I'm going to say Knoll as well because he's probably better in the know than I am in this case, Pia.
Yeah, we're having a bit of problems with the names, right?
Oh,
but at
yeah.
the end of every competition, we got them.
We seem to get it right at the last part of the competition, last 5 minutes when we do the awards ceremony.
Yeah. But at least for the most important thing, huh?
But you can see here, I mean, the guys were they were really on point with each other through the through the stock saw and through the underhand chop. Where it went a little bit south for Günther Dahlinger is here on that single buck, and it really is, as I mentioned, all about keeping that saw moving. That single buck is so difficult to restart, and it will just draw the energy out of you to try and restart it. And we saw that Red McNull also had to do a quick restart there, but you see there in the background, Dahlinger is just starting on his standing block when Red McNull is already on the other side of his. So there was really no chance for Dahlinger here in this one.
The competition until now is pretty exciting in my eyes. And as I mentioned before, 2020, there was no European trophy possible because of the COVID restrictions. But 2019, there was a European trophy in Sweden, in I think Kungsbacka. And from what I have heard, there was a really nice atmosphere and some huge excitement going on. Well, let's have a look. Well, those picks are just thrilling as the atmosphere, but we're gonna go right into the Castle House because the athletes are already waiting and are excited for heat number 4.
Yeah, we saw in those pictures as well, Pia, Michał Dubicki is on a roll. Oh, but this should be a good one. Heat number 4 in the round of 16 with Danny Martin up against Pierre Puy-Barré, who we saw last week at the French Championship, so he'll be focused to try and take this format home as well. Now we saw Danny Martin in those pictures from Sweden as well, got 3rd place at the event, so yeah, a solid outing for him. He's got plenty of experience in this format as well, and he's been training hard to try and make sure that he is fit enough to be able to keep up and really play a role in bending into 2 strong athletes here. This is going to be a tough one for whoever gets knocked out.
Athletes ready?
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Danny Marr is really strong with the saw in hand, the stock saw. He should be through this one fairly quickly. Oh, but look at that. Pierre Puy-Barré right there with him as they both end up striking that block pretty much bang on with each other, slabbing out some nice pieces. Danny Martin right close to your camera position there on the far side. Pierre Puy-Barré from France. Danny Martin switching over to the other side, 1 stroke ahead of Puy-Barré, who is now with them on the backside of the block. It's going to come down to a really strong single buck from Puy-Barré. I believe he is going to be a bit stronger in single buck than Danny Martin, but Danny Martin got over there first. Let's see if he can get that thing going and have a good flow. He got stuck there, and Puy-Barré has already got his saw moving. Danny Martin has got to really get into it now if we can get an open shot there, and we'll see how far down each of these two athletes are in that single buck. And it's Puy-Barré and Danny Martin both moving over to the standing block chop at the same time. This is getting exciting here as we've just passed the 1 minute mark, and both of these guys are really strong in this discipline. I'll give a slight advantage to Puy-Barré here though, but Danny Martin looking good as he moves over to the other side of his block, a step ahead of Puy-Barré. Oh my goodness, is Danny Martin going to be able to do it here? He's got to get through just ahead of Puy-Barré. Puy-Barré is looking close. Danny Martin on the far side there. Who's it going to be, Danny Martin or Puy-Barré? It's going to be Puy-Barré. Oh, just 1 stroke ahead of Danny Martin. A heartbreak for Martin, but a win for Puy-Barré as he moves on to the quarterfinals. Holy smokes, folks. That was fantastic. Woohoo!
I think the fact that he moved to the Alps, like to the center of timber sports, kind of, this gave him just the energy for this year.
Yeah.
He's rocking.
Absolutely.
All right, and the winner is Pierre Puy-Barré.
Wow. Look how close those times are.
Yes.
Plus
Insane.
1.47 seconds. That is nuts. It was literally, it was a single strokes difference for Danny Martin, excuse me. And I think had he not had that stick on the single buck, there would have been a different result here. But yeah, I mean, you can say that till the cows come home. What an amazing heat, though, between Puy-Barré and Danny Martin. And Puy-Barré will move on to the quarterfinals. Let's look at this again. Really nice thin cookie there by Puy-Barré, but Danny Martin's was also really good. Thin to win, as they say, but it's less important about the thinness in this case as it is about getting through there quickly. Now, they were both stroke for stroke on the underhand chop. I believe we're looking at the feet of Danny Martin there, yep, and moving to the other side of his block, he was actually a step ahead of Puy-Barré, but then he was a bit gingerly about starting on that single buck. It took him a bit, and Puy-Barré was, I would say, what, they were dead even on that single buck at the end. So I think really the difference was for Danny Martin, that single buck and the stick at the top of the thing. And you can see here, this backside shot from Puy-Barré, just 1 stroke difference. That is just heartbreaking for Danny Martin. Really too bad. And again, wait for it. There's the last stroke from Danny Martin. So really, it literally is 1 stroke. Fantastic. And it looks like Lisa is with Danny Martin right now in the Kasselhaus.
Thank you, Troy. I'm here with Danny Martin. Gute Performance, trotzdem kannst du uns vielleicht ein bisschen durchwalken quasi, was da jetzt genau los war?
Ja, ich sag mal, das war ein ganz knappes Rennen gewesen. Ich denke, ich kann mir nichts vorwerfen. Das Singlebuck, 2 Stecker gehabt. Das kostet natürlich sehr viel Energie, nicht nur Zeit, sondern wirklich Energie. Und ja, beim Standing war einfach die Luft raus. Habe wirklich die letzten Tage mit Grippe zu kämpfen gehabt. Das ist keine Entschuldigung. Habe wirklich gut trainiert dafür. Aber ich denke, es ist sehr schade, sehr, sehr knapp. Aber Glückwunsch an Pierre Puy-Barré. Hat das Rennen gemacht. Bei der Quali ein bisschen Pech gehabt. War ja 20 Sekunden langsamer vorhin als ich. Aber ich denke, jetzt hat er verdient gewonnen.
He says it was pretty close, but it got stuck, and he was ill. He know that it's not apology, but he's really happy for the winner, and also still incredible performance. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, now back to our experts.
All right, so heat number 5 coming up. We've got one more heat after this, and then we will have our quarterfinals locked and loaded. Heat number 5 will be between Emil Hansson and Koen Martens. Now, Koen Martens is one of the guys that actually got DQ'd in the qualification round. Gunther Dallinger, who we saw earlier on in the competition, was the other one, and Martin Kalina as well. And yeah, these guys had to go through based on the actual time that they had in their stock saw, is my understanding. And there you see is Emil Hansson getting ready, the youngest competitor in this competition at 20 years of age. So, and again, we were talking about the young guys that are coming through the rookie competitions and the rookie training opportunities that they have. He is one of those guys that is the future of timber sports for the Swedish side. And there you see Koen Martens. He is a legend from Belgium. He's been around the block quite a few years. 2016, 18, and 19, he was 12th at the world's individual competition. So he stays consistent. Second at the Virtual European Championships in 2020. 37 years old against a 20-year-old. Experience against, let's call it, vim and vigor and youth. Let's see who manages to make it into the quarterfinals between these two guys here. A legend and a future legend.
Athletes ready?
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Now, I saw that Koen Martens had his thumb hanging out the side of the block there. I'm wondering if they're going to go to competition control later and check that as a DQ because all his fingers needed to be over the line, or if that will be okay. We'll find out later. But in the meantime, these guys are both on the underhand chop. Emil Hansson on the right-hand side now from the overhead view in the yellow. Koen Martens on the left in the red. Both of them looking really good. Emil Hansson was first over to the other side of his block on the underhand chop, and it looks like it's going to be Emil Hansson going through first because he is a little bit farther ahead, but he's got a couple of big sticks there. But now Martens has a big stick as well. And let's see. No, it's going to be Martens getting through there first as he heads over to the single buck. This could be a huge advantage for Koen Martens as he gets that saw started and gets that misery whip moving. Emil Hansson now on it. Emil Hansson, a bit of a taller kid, and he has an opportunity here to catch up if he can get that saw moving and get some good flow. But Hansson has a stick, and now Koen Martens gingerly walks over to his standing block chop, and Emil Hansson will hear the hits and the blows on the standing block chop, so he knows that Koen Martens is already on standing, and he's got his work cut out for him to catch up with the Belgian. Koen Martens already over to the other side of his standing block. Emil Hansson still working on the first side now, decides to come over, but he's got a massive stick with his axe. It's in trouble now. Emil Hansson has got a lot of trouble, and it's going to be Koen Martens with a 1:31.83. Time is actually totally not the point here, as he will move on to the quarterfinals. And I guess you could say, being a bit older with some experience and being fit plays a huge role, as Emil Hansson struggling to get through that block. He's got so much power for his size that it's just, he keeps getting that axe stuck in there, and oh no! One blow away, and he's got himself a DQ. Not that it matters at this point. He will no longer be appearing in competition here. That is a tough break for the young man. But Pia, this is what we've been talking about all day long. It's that experience these young guys need to get through the rookies and coming into the pro level.
It definitely is. But
all right, and the winner of this heat is Koen Martens.
Yeah, I think he still did a great job, even especially for his age.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. The kid is young and inexperienced, let's put it that way, for the trophy format, and it is taxing. It is taxing.
It is the hardest format. There is no doubt about that.
All right, let's take a look back here as we get the slow-mo action from the stock saw. Now, look at this. It was actually Emil Hansson was just a hair ahead of Koen Martens as they went to the underhand chop, but then his power just played a big role here as he kept getting that axe stuck in the block, and that cost him time and energy. Meanwhile, Koen Martens has already moved over to his single buck as Emil Hansson finally breaks through. Now, the single buck for Koen Martens was clean. Emil Hansson had a couple of sticks off the top of it, and it was just too long for him to get over to the standing block chop. By this time, Koen Martens was already well deep into his first side and then moved over to the other side. And that was done and dusted for Emil Hansen, unfortunately. But you know what? This is something that he's going to take to the bank and say, okay, I've learned something. I know what I have to do. And there you see another big stick. The power of Emil Hansen is actually surprising for his size. And he just needs to know how to control that power. And look at this final blow from Koen Martens, the legend from Belgium. Absolutely fantastic picture right there.
Well, all those athletes definitely have to have the right car or the right transportation thing to transport all their tools and all their stuff. Well, what is the car for a timber sport athlete? It's a Ford car, for sure, a truck, not a track, a truck. And probably for all the fans of timber sports athletes as well. Well, the next video will probably convince you. It convinced me for sure. Well, there is only one heat missing for this round, and I'm going to be very keen watching it now. I think there's an Austrian guy competing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, your countryman, Armin Kugler, is in the mix there. And, you know, we know Armin Kugler. He's a very strong athlete in this discipline, but he's going up against a legend, Martin Komarek. And, I mean, I'm really going to enjoy this one. We've seen these guys at the individual world championships go up against each other. We've seen these guys at other trophy format championships go up against each other. So this is going to be a fun one to watch between a couple of dudes that are right in the mix. So Armin Kugler, 29 years old. He's got the age advantage, right?
I just wanted to say that. Yeah. 15 years difference. Wow.
but I will say, Armin Kugler, for being a young man, has a ton of experience in timber sports. Yeah. Now, speaking of experience, Martin Komarek, 5-time Czech champion. He's been in the mix for years. As early as 2005 or earlier, he has been involved in timber sports in the Czech Republic, and he's one of those guys you just love to see on stage. He's always smiling, always upbeat, always positive. He's just such an awesome guy, and you really can call him a living legend in the sport. There's no two ways about it. He's just a fun guy on stage. And here we go with the warm-up, and we'll get our start here shortly. And another tough situation as well. A couple of great guys that you would love to see move on to the next round, but they've got to go against each other. And because of that, one of them will be eliminated from competition today.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh yeah, Armin Kugler with a good start on that stock saw, but here comes Martin Komarek. Both of them dropping that cookie at the same time and moving over to the underhand chop. Komarek was just a hair faster on the underhand chop there as they get underway with the first side. And oh, look at that, both of them moving over to the other side at the same time. They've been watching each other's video footage from previous events. And Armin Kugler on the right there in the red. And now it is, oh, a nice hit by Martin Komarek, and he gets to a discipline that he's really strong in, and that is the single buck, and he's already near the bottom of his strokes there. Armin Kugler had about 3 more hits on the underhand chop before he got a chance to come over, and now Martin Komarek has cleared the cookie, and he's moving to his standing block chop. Oh man, Armin Kugler is in trouble now. He's strong here on this discipline. It's one of his strongest, in fact, so if he's going to catch up, it's going to be here, but Komarek has already moved over to the other side of his block, so I don't think it's going to happen for Armin Kugler today. And that means, unless a major hit comes in, it's going to be Martin Komarek moving on to the quarterfinals. And it should be shortly here. 1-2 more hits by Komarek should do it. But, oh my goodness, Kugler is catching up. Could it happen? It's going to happen. Unbelievable. Armin Kugler comes from behind, takes the win in this one against Komarek. I cannot believe it. I thought for sure Komarek was going to do this one. And Armin Kugler, with a fantastic standing block chop, just beat out Martin Komarek by a couple of strokes. Unbelievable, and all I have to say is, holy smokes, folks. Woo.
And I already thought, like, I don't want to have any preparation, but I thought both my landsmen would
All right,
be
and the winner of this heat is Armin Kugler.
But they're not, and he was happy.
He was really happy. Well, good for you guys. I mean, that's fantastic. It's that was a fun heat because, you know, Martin Komarek, he was off that single buck really quickly, and he had 5 or 6, I'm going to say minimum 7 strokes into that standing block chop before Armin Kugler even got over there. So, you know, that in itself says that Armin Kugler in that discipline, I mean, standing block chop is anyway one of Armin Kugler's strongest disciplines, as you know, he usually brings up the rear on the standing block chop, or yeah, in the standing block chop for the team competition. So, I mean, it definitely boded well for him here in this competition today. But you could see here, Martin Komarek still looking great. You know, even for his age, he's in fantastic shape. And it was like 1, 2, 3, 4 strokes before Armin Kugler got away from the underhand chop. And then we see here, the cookie drops, and Armin Kugler is only about halfway through. And look at this. Martin Komarek, he's deep into that first side and already on the other side. And then here comes Armin Kugler from behind. And he was just really putting everything he had into it. And it was a couple of big sticks and some really tricky little threads and bits of that log that just wouldn't want to let go for Martin Komarek. And there it is, that final blow. The lucky blow for Armin Kugler, and he makes it happen coming from way behind. So that was a fun and exciting heat right there as we take a look at the bracket changes now. So Dubicki will go up against Rossi, Kalina and Knoll, Svadling and Puybaré, and Martens and Kugler will battle it out to see who goes into the quarterfinals.
And our field reporter, Lisa, has already someone in front of her microphone. Let's take a look. I think it's Komarek, and we'll see them both too. I'm thrilled what he has to say now.
Thank you. I'm here with Martin Komarek. Martin, I'm so sorry. Can you walk us through what happened up there?
Yeah, you can be not sad. It is about the sport, so you have to do your best, which I did. So actually, I'm happy.
It was so close. So congratulations, you did such a great job.
Yeah, the performance was not so bad, but today was not my day. I know the mistakes. I know what is wrong, but we have to go for the sport.
That's fine. Thank you so much. And now back to Pia and Troy.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, there is... that was a nice goodbye.
flexing the beaches that way.
Oh, of course. Gotta make a good expression for the girls watching.
Exactly. But you gotta love his attitude, right? I mean, you know, yeah, I've learned something. I know what was wrong, and here's how I've got to improve. And that's Martin Komarek right there for you in a nutshell.
Well, and there is gonna come up now a heat analysis between Kugler and Pubare, who are in the standings in the first and second by now. Let's have a watch.
So here we are on that stock saw, and you see Pubare moves over pretty quickly to the underhand chop. Armin Kugler, both of them actually disappear from our main camera angle there because the logs have been set off to the side. So we can't really see side by side who is actively moving through the underhand chop as cleanly as the other. But look, you can see the bits of wood and blocks coming off of the huge slabs coming off of Pubare. He's so powerful. And look at this. They're both moving over to the single buck at the same time. And these guys are both pretty strong on the single buck. Armin Kugler, maybe not quite as strong as Pubare on the single buck, but he obviously has been working the single buck quite well as he was first through it and moving to the standing block chop. Pubare and Kugler both really strong in this particular discipline, the standing block chop. So, you know, we can see here Armin Kugler moving over to the other side of his block. And this was also that, that last heat that we saw against Martin Komarek on the left side there, Armin Kugler against Komarek. This is just the side-by-side comparison, and Pubare was in an earlier heat against Emil Hansson. Excuse me, against Danny Martin. And yeah, so, you know, you could see side-by-side the style for both of these guys and how it worked for them. And it was funny to see nobody on, but pieces of wood flying all over the place.
Yes, a nice perspective.
So, yeah, that's a nice perspective for sure.
Yeah, and now we're back on stage for the next round, for the quarterfinal.
All right, so Michał Dubicki has the advantage. He was good in the time trials. That means he jumped over the round of 16. He's had a chance to see what the other guys are doing. He's had a chance to get some rest, so he'll be fresh for the quarterfinals, going up against Andrea Rossi, who had to battle in the round of 16. And there you see Andrea Rossi getting himself ready. What I wanted to say earlier is Michał Dubicki has been on a roll the last couple of years as he stepped up his game noticeably. He's always been a very, very strong man. Good axeman, good sawyer as well, and seems to be that he's rounded out his overall game generally, and then we've seen that from the results that have come from Michał Dubicki in the last couple of years. And now it's his opportunity to really take this to the next level. If he can win here, then we've got an opportunity for him to really move up in the rankings overall and become a legend of his own. Here we go.
1, go!
So there's the two different styles, with the engine way down for Andrea Rossi and the engine way up for Michał Dubicki. And now they move over to the underhand chop. Andrea Rossi was a little bit quicker, a little bit slighter getting over to the underhand chop, but look how quickly Michał Dubicki on the right-hand side of your screen is moving that axe. Now he jumped over to the other side. There was no ginger about that move. He actually hopped around on that block. Now he's through. You could see it break, and he is well ahead of Andrea Rossi at this point. Rossi struggling to find that final blow, finally gets it, but Michał Dubicki is on that single buck. He's not wasting any time. He's going for those short, choppy strokes. He just wants to get that thing done and dusted so we can get over onto that standing block chop. And it looks like we may even have a really good time. I don't know why. There it goes. It starts the clock again as he gets to the standing block chop. And now Andrea Rossi is over there. Both of these guys have been working on their fitness, but none more than Michał Dubicki, who has been really making sure he stayed fit in the off time as well as during the lockdowns. And on the other side of his block, does it in a 107.99. And that means we are going to see Michał Dubicki in the semifinal, and Andrea Rossi, unfortunately, not going to make it there as he is still battling. Now remember, he's got to get it done in a certain amount of time. If he goes over that time, and then it's going to be a DQ for time elapsed, which is, I believe, 2 minutes, and he is just exhausted. You can see it, Peter.
He's still on the first side. He hasn't moved to the other side, I think.
No, he's on his other side, but he is, you know, he gets that axe stuck in there a bunch of times and he is just absolutely pooped. He's got 15 seconds, less than that now to get through there, but it just maybe one more blow will do it. Yep, there it is. So he gets his time, and unfortunately we're not going to see him moving on, and that was a rough one for Andrea Rossi, who we're normally seeing pretty strong in these competitions, but Michał Dubicki, wow, what a monster he was today.
But I mean, there's a reason why he's called the X Machine.
Yeah.
You know, like,
oh, and look at that knot. They just had a really brief picture of this massive knot.
All right, and the winner
block from Andrea Rossi
is Michał Dubicki.
So Michał Dubicki will move on to the semifinals. Andrea Rossi will have a chance to sit it out and watch the rest of the competition. Unfortunate for him. But Michał Dubicki was just too strong today as we take a look back at the slow-mos here. Now look at the engine position here by Michał Dubicki. He arches the blade through the cut, really nicely done. Unfortunately, we don't get the comparison side by side there with the stock saw, and you could see quick hits to start things off for Dubicki. Andrea Rossi going for those long hits from on high, and Dubicki just using that quick axe style to try and get through as quickly as possible, and it worked for him. Dubicki taking this one down in no time flat. And so far, no flags on the play anywhere on stage during this, so it means no disqualifications for an early start or hands off the line or anything like that. So, yeah, good competition so far, fair competition so far. The tough situation for Andrea Rossi was when he actually did move around to the other side. He actually had a knot right there in his piece of wood that was causing him a ton of problems, but it was all Michał Dubicki in that heat for sure. So, great job by the stage crew to reset that stage in no time flat, and our next pairing should be coming out any second now with Martin Kalina up against Redmer Knoll. And here they come. Martin Kalina will have stand 1, Redmer Knoll stand 2 on the right-hand side. There you can see Martin Kalina, silver medalist, the Czech Championships 2019.
I think it's amazing how they do not bother all the cameras around them at
30
all.
seconds.
They're so focused.
Yeah, these guys are absolutely focused.
Yes.
I mean,
but it's good. Like, imagine you would bother them and you'd be like all over the place.
You would have to be, focused. I mean, let's consider what they're doing out there and what tools they're using. There's just, there's no way around it, you know?
No.
And if you get bothered by these camera guys, you're in trouble. But on the flip side, these camera guys are well versed in where they have to be. They're explained, if they're new to the sport, they're told deep and intensely where they are and where they should not go, because there is a danger factor for them as well. So you got to give kudos to the camera guys that are on stage, because they're right in the mix to get us these fantastic pictures as well.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nice start by Redmer Knoll. Although Martin Kalina, I believe, is through that block a little bit faster and onto the underhand chop before Redmer Knoll, 2 strokes in. And Knoll now on the left-hand side of your screen in the orange. Martin Kalina on the right in the red, white, and blue. No, not that red, white, and blue, the other one. And you can see both of them have just switched over to the other side more or less at the same time. I believe Martin Kalina was just a hair ahead of Redmer Knoll. So it should be interesting to see who goes over to the single buck first. It's going to be a tie race. And Martin Kalina a little bit smoother on the start. Redmer Knoll right there with them now. And both of these guys having nice long strokes, keeping the flow going. Hope I don't jinx him by saying that, but it looks like Martin Kalina might get through there first on the single buck. Yes, he will. And Redmark Knoll, 2 strokes behind Martin Kalina now on the standing block chop. And here they go. Ooh, a little skip by Redmark Knoll there on that second blow. And that might be ringing through his head a little bit as he gets stuck in the block. And Martin Kalina now moving over to the other side. 1 stroke, 2 strokes now, 1 stroke ahead of Redmark Knoll. This is also going to be a close one. Redmark Knoll, though, seems to be doing well on the backside of his block. Martin Kalina, oh, it's going to be really close. Whoa! How close was that? Super, super close. Kalina just a half stroke ahead of Knoll.
And still, Knoll having a personal best, even though he didn't get first. Like,
yeah,
pretty good.
But it's
still,
you know, that's what we talk about all the time. These guys are constantly improving their game, constantly trying to find a little second here or a half second there, or, you know, a more efficient stroke there, or anything that will just help them get along. But how close was that? I mean, they were really, really, really...
All right, and the winner of this heat is Martin Kalina.
Right on top of each other. Look at that, 120.89 to 121.41. That is milliseconds difference between those two guys. It was like literally a half stroke for Martin Kalina. Great job. So we will see Martin Kalina in the semi-final with Michał Dubicki. And now we have 2 more heats to go in this quarterfinal. The next one coming up will be Kalle Swadling against Pierre Puy-Barré. And you can see in the slow-mos here, these guys were both really, really solid on the underhand shot. Martin Kalina just a little bit stronger on this discipline to get him onto that single buck. But Knoll was, you know, you could see he struggled to get started. And then Kalina was already into it. Knoll was right there, though, and it was literally 3 strokes before the cookie dropped, and he moved over to the standing block chop. And then, I mean, you know, if that block was a centimeter bigger, I think maybe Knoll might have beat him. And you could see the look on his face as he turned to look after the block dropped. He turned and looked and saw that Kalina had already dropped, and he was like, oh no, you know, forehead slap. But that's the way it goes. All right, so again, the spooky stage could be it could be like a haunted mansion in October.
But kind of romantic as well. Like the lights there, they're like a sunset. Yeah. I enjoyed
a romantic haunted house. Now there's a new one. That might be the next generation of weird stuff to do in October. All right. Just to put this, by the way, in perspective, the fastest trophy time by an individual is owned by Brad DeLosa from Australia from 2015, who managed to get through stock saw, underhand chop, single buck, and standing block chop in a blistering 57.59 seconds. That is the world record for trophy format, held by Brad DeLosa from Australia. So nobody's really getting close to that here today, but I think in the near future, we're probably going to see some of these young guys really step up their game and find that extra time that they need to break that world record. But it's been hanging around for 6 years so far, so it's about time that that gets busted. Our most recent record, by the way, was the single buck. There was one that just got broken recently by Sweden here. Yeah, stock saw. Pontus Sky in the Swedish Championship managed to get the stock saw world record with a 9.14 seconds. So great job by him, and congratulations. That was earlier this year.
But today in the rookie competition, we also had some world records.
Yeah, we had two world records, one that was broken and one that was made because it was a new discipline for the rookies in the springboard. So, you know, a really good job by the rookies as well.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Kalle Swadling, Pierre Puy-Barré, a couple of guys with some good experience here. Puy-Barré, I'm going to give a little bit of experience advantage to, as he drops the cookie and moves over more or less at the same time as Kalle Swadling. Swadling representing Sweden on the right-hand side now from this overhead view, and now on the left from the front view. And Puy-Barré for France on the right there. Puy-Barré over to the other side of his block, but a big stick on the initial hit, and now starts to slab out some of those blocks. Kalle Swadling looking really good. This is a strong discipline for Swadling, and both of these guys seem to be having a little bit of stickiness in their blocks there, maybe with their axes. Didn't see either of them put any of the lube or anything on, but it is Puy-Barré who manages to get through about 2 strokes ahead of Swadling, and now he's on a discipline that he is pretty strong in, and that is the single buck. So now if he can get through the single buck clean and get onto that standing block chop, then I think Puy-Barré could do well here, and finally got it. But it looks like he was tiring towards the end of that single block, so he's really got to think about his energy output now and just try and be as efficient as possible with these blows and not get stuck and really be clean with his hits. Kalle Swadling also on the first side there, and he's got some big slabs coming out too. Puy-Barré moves over to the other side. Now Swadling moves over to the other side, just a stroke behind Puy-Barré, so he is not that far behind once it moves into the standing block chop, but it's Puy-Barré with a 127.32. He wins the heat and he'll go on to the semifinals. Kalle Swadling, I thought that he might catch up, but it took about 5 or 6 more strokes in order for him to drop that block, but he was coming on strong, and Puy-Barré knew that, and he had to expend a little more energy in the standing block, and you can see he is winded.
Okay, and the winner of this heat is Pierre Puy-Barré.
All right, so there you go. Puy-Barré moves on to the semi-final. So we will see again Michał Dubicki, Martin Kalina, and Puy-Barré, Pierre Puy-Barré moving on to the semi-final with one more heat in this quarterfinal coming up, and that is heat number 10 in the overall lineup of heats here, or heat number 4 in the quarterfinal, again from Koen Martens and Armin Kugler. And back on the slow-mos here, you can see Kalle Swadling really, he just got on that block and started working hard. And on the second side, we didn't see it right there, unfortunately, but the first blow for Puy-Barré on the second side as he switched over got stuck for a moment, and that probably caused a little bit of drama in his head, but he settled himself and kept moving towards the single buck. And here, I think he was about 2 strokes ahead of Kalle Swadling in the single. 4 in this case, and now moving over here. And I really thought that Kalle Swadling was going to catch up on this standing block chop here. And here we go. And this is where I thought, I mean, it looked like Kalle Swadling was deeper through that block than he was, but in fact it was Puy-Barré, and it was just the lip on that one as he gives us the thumbs up, and he will be moving on to the semi-final. And I think that it's Kalle Swadling, yep, is with Lisa right now.
I'm here with Kalle Swadling. Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your heat?
Yeah, this heat was harder than the first one in time trial. It feels like it was harder wood, and then you have to put your technique in, and I was a little bit stressed, and I think I rushed too much. So, but it was good.
Hard competitors, but you did a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And now back to Pia and Troy.
This is the perfect example for the precision and the focus being so important. Because he just said it was kind of his nerves going crazy, and that's why he, kind of got stuck.
Yeah, I mean, that's what some of these guys, they really feed off of that nervous energy. They really feed off of that that competition aspect where they know there's a good guy next to them and they can let that adrenaline work for them. Other guys, they tend to get a little bit wound up, and I think that was the case for Kalle Swadling here. He got a little bit wound up, a little bit nervous. He tried to rush it too much, and that cost him. So that's the way it goes. Next up, we have Koen Martens up against Armin Kugler. And there we see the legend from Belgium, Koen Martens. as he gets that single buck set. And again, they have these special meters that they will put on the log just to make sure that everything is even for both sides. Then they will set that down and get ready to go, make sure everything is in the right position, and they can make their cuts fair and square. And there you see Armin Kugler from Austria. Always serious on stage. Always, you know, he's got that face on stage.
Yeah.
But, you know, behind the scenes, so like a lot of the guys, just a really relaxed dude, you know, super friendly, super nice. And you wouldn't think that to see a lot of these guys on stage, how they are behind the scenes, but it's all about the competition for them here.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, we are in stock saw here. Oh, Armin Kugler a little bit slow on the stock saw as Koen Martens gets over to the underhand chop first. Koen Martens moving over to the other side of his block, just a stroke ahead of Armin Kugler. Armin Kugler really putting it all in now, as he knows if he wants to get to the semifinal, he's got to beat Koen Martens. Let's Hugh breaks through first here. This overhead view is really a nice view, and it's going to be Koen Martens moving over, but not that far behind is Armin Kugler, and they hit the single buck at the same time. Let's see who's got the stroke and the flow here. Koen Martens using that entire saw really efficiently. Wow, cool. Both of those are down at the same time. Both cookies hitting the floor evenly, and they both move over to the standing block chop at the same time. Now again, this is a strong discipline for Armin Kugler. Both of them moving over to the other side of their block at the same time. Who is going to go on to the semifinal? Will it be Belgians, Koen Martens, or Austria's Armin Kugler? It's going to be a close one between these two guys. A couple of warriors going for it, but it's going to be Armin Kugler from Austria getting through and moving on to the semifinal round. What a battle between these two guys. Oh no, and we have a flag on the play. There is a red light and a yellow flag over top of Armin Kugler's stand B. That means they will take a closer look in competition control to see if there was something that happened illegally in this competition between these two guys. So this is where our competition control center comes into play with the review. And it looks like the dropping of the saw, it didn't get put down in a safe position, so that may be a disqualification for Armin Kugler, which would be a devastating moment for him because he was in such a great battle against Koen Martens, and I think Koen Martens will be happy to go on to the semifinal, but he doesn't want to win it this way, so let's see. A lot of discussion going on back there. So we'll wait for the call from our stage judges here and see.
All right. Koen, your cut was okay. Unfortunately, Armin DQ, you also throw the saw. So the winner of this heat, Koen Martens.
All right, so a DQ for Armin Kugler. That is a really tragic end to his competition day because he was so good up until this point. And Koen Martens, if you talk to Koen Martens later, I promise you, he'll say, I didn't want to win it this way, but, you know, he's moving on to the semifinal, so that gives him an opportunity to take one step closer to becoming the champion here. That's unfortunate for Armin Kugler, but there are specific rules about how things have to end here, and you can see that Armin Kugler's stock saw is on its side with blade up, and that is a no-no. So that is the reason for his DQ. They have to place the stock saw on the ground, turned off, sitting safely, and unfortunately, that is just a small mistake that probably could have been corrected, but also probably would have taken more time than Armin Kugler wanted to. All right, so taking a look at the bracket now and who is moving on to the semifinal, we see Michał Dubicki will be going up against Martin Kalina in semifinal number 1. Sometime soon. Hopefully you'll get to see it as well. And in semi-final number 2, we will have Pierre Puy-Barré against Koen Martin. Okay, it didn't look like our graphic bracket wanted to work there, but I'll just say that that's actually the case. And Dubicki, Kalina, and Puy-Barré Martins will be going up against each other in semifinal 1 and semifinal 2, respectively. So that's going to be some fun battles right there. It's going to be an interesting one for Koen Martins to see how he manages to go up against Puy-Barré, both really strong competitors. And I think we're going to get a side-by-side analysis from one of the earlier heats here. Let's check that out.
The first and the third place by now in the standings.
And it looks like we've got Armin Kugler there on the left-hand side. Not exactly sure here. No, excuse me. That's Michał Dubicki. The color scheme is the same, though. And look how quickly both of these guys are actually working with the axe there on the underhand chop. This is the new style of chopping here, as these guys are both very, very fast with the axe. This was something that was developed and really perfected by the Australians. And everybody else has seen, okay, in order to keep up in the game of timber sports, they have to be also quick with the axe. And we could see Martin Kalina, his picture stopped on the right-hand side. But Michał Dubicki has really stepped up his game, and you can see here, really solid. And this is one of the reasons why he is the favorite to win this event and in the semi-final, heat number 1.
Well, I don't know what about you, but if I wouldn't be standing here, I would be right in front of my TV, sitting on a couch, probably with a bucket of popcorn, or in my case, with a bucket of nuts, a bit healthier, watching Steel Timber Sports on Amazon Prime, because that's quite nice, as you will see.
Oh my God, how close is this? It's one of the closest heats we've had all day long, and it's Australia!
When the crowd start, you know, erupting, screaming, shouting, it just really does give you goosebumps.
It's pretty awesome to compete in front of a crowd like this.
I've been working my ass off the last 5 years to get to this point.
Is it going to be the checker bubble? Yes, it is! And the crowd goes bananas! He moves on, then goes down. He's looking good!
It might make some people nervous. It doesn't make me nervous. It makes me ready to go.
To come here to the World Championships is one of my dreams. It has been ever since as a kid.
And we're back on stage. Our first pairing will be in the first heat of the semi-final. Michał Dubicki against Martin Kalina. And next will be Pierre Puy-Barré, an absolute legend, against another legend, Koen Martins. Have fun watching this.
All right, and as you saw there, they had the world record time displayed below of 57.59, again held by and still held by Brad Delosa from Australia. Got it back in 2015, and we see there Michał Dubicki on the left-hand side. He'll be on stand A for this one, and Martin Kalina on stand B. If I were Martin Kalina, I'd be shaking in my boots, knowing that the pedigree that has been built up by Michał Dubicki in the last little while has been a very strong one. That said, that might give him the amount of adrenaline, and if he can use that adrenaline to his benefit, he may well, let's call it, dethrone the king. And if that's the case, we could see an upset here today, and Martin Kalina going on to the final.
To your timber.
Let's see how it goes.
3, 2, 1, go!
Even start by both of these guys, and if I could see those saws, it looks like Kalina might actually have a bit of a lead, and he does, in fact, moving over to the underhand chop ahead of Michał Dubicki. But watch the axe speed from Michał Dubicki. Martin Kalina in 3-4 strokes ahead of Michał Dubicki. Michał Dubicki is already caught up with the stroke speed that he's got there, and let's see if he does that hop skip over to the other side of his block. He does, barely even touching. He swings it over, and he gets moving on the backside of his block before Martin Kalina, and Dubicki is through and heading over to the single buck now. He's caught up after being behind by just a bit, and now he's got a huge advantage being well into the single buck. And Martin Kalina now joins him on single buck, having a lot of trouble getting that thing started. Like I said, that is a bear, and once it's started, you can't let it stop, and that's happened to Kalina already a couple of times. Dubicki now aiming just to get through this standing block chop as cleanly and as quickly as possible. They've already passed the minute mark here. Kalina finally joining Dubicki on the standing block chop. Dubicki over to the other side of his standing block now as Kalina starts to hit on his. And, I mean, I won't even say it's close at this point with Dubicki. One more blow, and that's going to do it, 117.78. And Dubicki is going to be moving to the final, which means that Martin Kalina, once he drops this block, will move on to small final number 1, I believe, to battle for 3rd place in the competition. Well, small final. There is only one small final, Pia. And he does get it through in 139.40, so no DQ for time excess. But, yeah, he's tired, and he knows he's got one more heat to go, and that's the small final. And Dubicki, he's focused. He wants this
yes.
one. Yeah, most definitely.
Yes, he really does.
So Poland is in the house.
All right, and the winner of this first semi-final is Michał Dubicki.
So Michał Dubicki will move to the final. Martin Kalina will go to the small final. That small final is the battle for 3rd place in the competition today, and that will happen before the final does. But we still need to load that final. And as we take a look here at the slow-mo action, and Dubicki, unbelievable. So quick with that axe, caught up to Kalina, and then flew past him in the underhand chop here. A couple more blows, and you'll see that axe go through the block. And Dubicki move over to the single buck well ahead of Kalina. Now, Kalina really had a lot of trouble starting the saw. You can see in the background there, just really struggling to get it started. But once he finally got it started, he was okay, and the movement kept going. But Dubicki was so far ahead by that point, he probably could have taken out a toothpick, cleaned his teeth, and then continued chopping and would have still won this heat. Not fair to say that because Kalina is such a good competitor, but Michał Dubicki is just so strong these days. It's insane. And there, the final blow for Michał Dubicki that put him in the final.
And he is pretty confident. You can see it in his eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? We heard Dirk Brown say it earlier, you know. Athletes who win have confidence, and athletes who don't win are not confident.
True.
So I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He said it way better. But, you know, yeah. Oh, by the way, hashtag Stihl Timbersports if you want to join in on the conversation, and of course, our favorite hashtag.
Kiss my axe. I love this one.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, if you want to watch the live stream, like if you, I don't know, watching it on YouTube right now, you can also watch it on Twitch and on Facebook.
Yes.
It is amazing there too. Well, if you have seen the Rookie European Championship, you might have heard this one or another, or a lot of times. Kind of short.
Tons.
And we will have a look now on the event schedule. Today was the Rookie Championship, and now we have the European Trophy. Next week, the European Nations Cup is coming up next on the Saturday. On the Sunday, the Austrian Pro Championship, where we will see our Austrian colleagues who were here today as well, I guess so. On the 21st, the German Pro Championship, and on the 28th of August, the Nordic Pro Championship. But that's not the end, right?
That's just August. That's every weekend in August, and then we jump into September, October, and more events then. So, yeah.
And the World Championship.
Correct.
I'm keen for this one.
Yep, that's a lot of action coming your way for Stihl Timbersports.
Yes. Oh, yes.
All right, speaking of action coming your way, next up, Pierre Prébarré. Focused at the moment. The Joker is left backstage as the man on stage right now is fully concentrating on getting himself into the final against Michał Dubicki. But that man right there, Koen Martens, 4-time Belgium champion, he doesn't want to let that happen. So you know he's going to be pushing hard, even though he knows that he got into this semifinal by default against Armin Kugler, which is unfortunate. He's here, and he's got to make it happen. Prywatnie, a little
athletes ready.
breath out. Maybe he's nervous, more nervous than it looked like.
Oh, yes. Or out of breath. I could imagine that.
All right, similar styles on the stalk saw by both of these gentlemen. Let's see who drops a cookie first, or if they both go down at the same time. Prywatnie half step ahead of Koen Martens on the stalk saw, but Koen Martens was quicker over to the underhand chop. And you know that he's motivated now, knowing that he's got Prywatnie right next to him. Koen Martens moves over to the other side of his underhand before Prywatnie does. Prywatnie long, strong strokes, though, as he's very good in this discipline. And Koen Martens looks like he might be through quicker than Prywatnie. I thought I saw that block start to shake, but no, it's Prywatnie who steps off before Koen Martens. And a little surprised there at how many more strokes it took Koen Martens to get through that block. I thought that I saw that thing waggling. Prywatnie now, with the last bits of energy to get through that single buck, will move over to the standing block chop, and you can see him. He is breathing heavy as he tries to get in as much oxygen as he can for each of these big hits. Koen Martens now moves over to standing block chop to join Prywatnie. And let's see if Prywatnie is going to get caught by Koen Martens. Prywatnie moves over to the other side of his block. Koen Martens still working on the first side, but now he moves over as well on the backside of his block. Could be a tight one. Prywatnie still with the advantage, and he is a big man. Like I said, he's got that distance that he can really throw at that block, and he's done it. Prywatnie will go against Michał Dubicki in the final, and that means Koen Martens will battle against Martin Kalina in the small final. And look at this. Both of these guys are just spent, and you can tell they're happy that that heat's over, but now the mentality has switched, and they're thinking, okay, got to get some breath in, got to get a little energy, because there's one more heat to go.
And the winner of this second semi-final is Prywatnie.
Hey! It reminds me a little bit of the Sand People scene from Star Wars, you know. But nevertheless, that was a fine heat between Koen Martens and Pierre Prywatnie. And if we take a look at our final lockdown here, it is going to be in the small final, Martin Kalina going up against Koen Martens, and then our big final to determine who will be our European Trophy champion, Michał Dubicki against Pierre Prywatnie. And the man right there, Prywatnie on the underhand chop, was just slightly behind, but his impact on those logs and his precision is so good that he managed to break that block about 4 or 5 strokes ahead of Koen Martens, and then it was just too much for Koen Martens to try and catch up once he was on that single buck. And finally, standing block chop. Prywatnie, one of his strongest disciplines, almost always anchors the team for France on that discipline or underhand chop. So, yeah, a really solid performance by the Frenchman, and there the final blow to put him into the final. The final blow. So, looking at our bracket, there we see semifinal action, and those guys will move over to the finals. Now, the final, Dubicki against Prywatnie, and the small final, or as I like to call it, the consolation final, is Kalina and Martens. So Martin Kalina and Koen Martens will battle first. We'll see them on stage to begin our final setup, and then it will be the main event, which I'm looking forward to.
Me too. And as you mentioned before, if the wood would be a bit, like a slightly different, everything else would be different as well. Like if it would be a few centimeters thicker, it would make such a huge difference. So it has to be prepared and grown in a very specific manner. And how this is going to be done, you're going to see that now.
Hi, my name's Spike Milton, Global Sports Director for STIHL Timbersports. Today we are in a plantation of young poplar, and one of the biggest challenges that I face as part of my role is to ensure that our competitions are supplied with the highest quality wood. We as STIHL Timbersports pride ourselves that all wood is sustainably grown, harvested and recycled to minimise the overall amount of wood processed. Firstly, this popular wood is grown on certified plantations. These are fast-growing hybrids which are 100% sustainable. The plantations are predominantly used for the packaging industry, and therefore our trees can be considered as a side product. Secondly, the white pine for our sawing disciplines is only sourced from certified forest management. No matter where the wood is coming from, it is always harvested with minimum impact on the natural environment.
Each individual tree is examined for its conformation before processing. What we are looking for is consistency, which means not just how straight the tree is, but also how uniformly round the wood is. We need to make it fair for all athletes. So we are selecting different sections of the trees to use for each of our specific disciplines.
I'm Bart Jensen, Head of Wood Management, and together with Spike we have a wealth of knowledge and experience with long-term sustainable wood management.
With our resistograph we also measure the density of the wood. That is how hard or how soft the wood is and if there are nuts in it. To ensure the quality and high standards required for premium competition wood, we need to have a consistent grain structure with a uniform size, thus providing equal standards for all of our athletes.
I don't see any nuts, so this forest is good for me.
Once the trees are felled, extracted and transported to our facilities, we measure, mark and then cut the wood into sized blocks.
Daan Jans here. As a specialist chainsaw operative, I oversee the further processing of our premium competition wood, from the plantation to the stage.
Removing all visible imperfections and knots which could affect the chopping or sawing of the block. We then peel the blocks ready for competition. After careful selection, the blocks then leave our yard and are distributed internationally to our Steel Timbersports competitions, guaranteeing fair competitions for all our pro, intermediate, rookie and women athletes.
After all our steel competitions, all the spent wood is collected and recycled right down to the wood chips and sawdust, which, for example, is converted into renewable energy in the form of wood pellets for biomass. Only 2/3 of all organic residues results from competitions. 1/3 is already from wood preparation. In order to achieve a long-term consistent premier wood supply for the coming years, we quest to find certified partners. This ensures that all newly planted trees are nurtured and managed, promoting maximum efficiency and sustainability for the future conservation of our valuable forests.
Therefore, as you can see, with good harvesting practices and good management with silviculture, the ground is quickly replaced by new trees, or could even be used for arable for farmers and future rotations.
So as we now know, this definitely takes a lot of time to prepare all this wood to be equal for the competition. Like it takes a lot of effort to prepare all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about it in terms of, you know, these blocks are always the same size. They're always a consistent roundness. They're always consistently doing through so that they're as knot-free as possible. We did see one knot in one of the competitions with Koen Martin, but, you know, that just happens sometimes. You can't be 100% every single time, but these guys, they spend a lot of time and they put a lot of effort into making sure that every single block is as fair as it possibly can be. There's always going to be anomalies in any sport. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, whether it's hockey, figure skating, mountain biking, BMX riding, throwing a javelin, or steel timber sports. There's always going to be something that's going to factor in weather conditions, temperature, humidity in the air. But to be really fair, these blocks are just in fantastic condition, and it's not like one block is handed to an athlete and then that's the block they get. They draw blocks from a special thing so that nobody gets any one particular block. It's not handed to them. They have to choose their blocks through a draw. So it really is the most fair way of choosing these blocks for these athletes.
Yes, definitely. And probably the first thing which comes to your mind if you're thinking of timber sports is wood and wood blocks, and of course lumberjacks, because that's what it used to be a lot about and is still kind of, but there's so much more about it. And, well, what it is about, you're going to experience now.
Expert woodsman who can cut down a tree more easily than most people can chop one up. When it really comes to tackling large lumps, you can't beat the men of the forestry companies.
An axeman's gathering.
This is Thomas losing the most against it.